Hey pumpkins! So where have I been? I wasn't sure if I was actually going to make this video because I don't owe anyone an explanation of what I've been through or where I've been, but I know that there are people who were concerned about my situation. So I have decided to go forward with this. It has been said that I can't take criticism, and that's not true. I actually welcome criticism because it helps me to be better. What I have difficulty taking is bullying, is the mocking and the name calling and the laughing at and all of that unkindness. I will say though that this video does have some content warnings because what I have been through is pretty traumatic. I am not trying to sad fish. I am not trying to make you feel sorry for me. I'm not trying to play the victim. I am relaying my experiences based on my perception, and I'm the only one who can tell my story from my side. This video does mention PA, SA, DA, being unhoused, mental health. Things started to kind of take a nosedive in my life long before I started my channel. And I can kind of trace a path back to April of 2018. At the time, I owned a house and I had been working a job for many years. I had lost that job through kind of shady reasons, and I probably should have pursued that legally, but I had other stuff going on. And that was right before my mortgage renewal came up. There were changes in the laws and the rules about qualifying for a mortgage, so I had to reapply. And because I just lost my job, I didn't qualify for mortgage renewal. So I needed to sell my house or find another source or find a cosigner, and I didn't have a cosigner, so I ended up selling my house. And that was really hard. It was really, really tough for me to sell my house. I really loved that house. But yep, sold the house and ended up moving into a crappy apartment, which ended up, I'd met a gentleman and that relationship was moving very fast. I ended up moving in with him pretty fast. Yes, that was a poor quality decision, but you know, hindsight's 2020, right? Things were great with him for a while, and then they started to deteriorate really rapidly. And that relationship became unhealthy, and there was ABUSE. I left and came back and left and came back, and I'm not ashamed of that because the average woman leaves a DA situation on average, because the average woman leaves a DA situation 7 times before she's done for good. So that's not uncommon that women leave and come back, or the partner leaves and comes back, because you know, men can be the recipients of DA as well. After I left the DA situation, I was staying with my friends Jackie and Brian, who I've known for like 15 years, and they're such wonderful people. And they, helped me get on my feet a bit. And then COVID happened, which it happened to all of us of living through the pandemic. So my business, which I had reading tarot, which was a self-sustaining business, I had built it up to being enough to live off of. I couldn't do because my business was based on face-to-face events, on face-to-face readings, and on psychic fairs and events, so everything was canceled. If it wasn't for the CRB, I don't know if I would have survived. Like, I was so grateful for that. I tried really hard to find work. Like, I was applying for like 1,000 jobs, and it was really difficult. I have agoraphobia. So that means that sometimes I have difficulty with anxiety and leaving my house. And the pandemic made it far worse. So for me to get the gumption to leave the house, to go somewhere, to be somewhere on time is very difficult for me. I know that there were those who had suggested, hey, why don't you just go on disability? And there's a story, and then I know I got some heat for not pursuing that path, and I really wanted to explain that because who's ever saying that really has no idea of how disability, which in my province is called ODSP, works. So My doctor had suggested at one point that I go on ODSP because of my agoraphobia and also with ADHD and autism. That was something that she had recommended. It's not as simple as doctor writes a note and all of a sudden you get free money. That's not how it works. The first step is doctor writing a prescription and writing a letter recommending ODSP. And then you need to apply. And because my issue is mental health, and there are some times when I can leave the house, and there are some times when I really can't, and I'm like, having a panic attack, sitting on the edge of my bed with my coat on, and I can't leave. They're like, well, you can leave your house sometimes. So most likely I would get declined the first time. Most people get declined the first time, especially if it's a mental health issue. Like, you have to be on your deathbed to get ODSP on your first application. The application process, the first one, takes about a year, 8 months to a year. And then at that point, you get declined and you need to appeal that or reapply. And for that, you need a disability lawyer who you hire at your own expense. And then you go through the reapplication and the appeal process. And that process, again, can take about a year. And no guaranteed you're going to be accepted on the second try. So during that time, so even if let's say after the second or the third appeal that I get accepted, if I did, which there's no guarantee of that, I can't work during that time. So that's a 2 to 3 year period where I'm not allowed to work. So I can't have any income, which means I would need someone else to support me. The Ontario Works, or the welfare system, pays about $700 a month. The average rental in Ontario, like, rent has gone through the roof. I know it's high everywhere. Right now I'm in Toronto and the rent is about $2,000 a month and that's for a 1-bedroom. In the city I grew up in London, rent for a 1-bedroom right now is, I might be able to find something for $1,500, but $700 a month, maybe I can rent a room, but okay, that's my whole rent. How do I eat? And that's for 2 to 3 years. And then if I qualified for disability after 2 to 3 years, and somehow would have to pay that lawyer out of my own pocket, the amount that disability pays is about $1,300 a month. And as I said, like, you can't get an apartment for $1,300 a month, not to mention the fact that you have to live, pay for groceries and phone and whatnot. I am capable of working, and I grew up with a lot of pride about working and Protestant work ethic, and I have a kind of an unhealthy relationship with hustle culture. I know I enjoy working, I like working, but yeah, agoraphobia makes things difficult. So I was specifically looking for like a work from home opportunity, which COVID kind of created the golden age of work from home jobs. So that was where I was focusing, and it did take me a long time to find something. And then I finally did find something, and then I ended up moving. I got rent-evicted, which is a fun term when the landlord wants to raise rent. I was in an apartment in Hamilton. I was actually paying $12.50 a month, which is really, really cheap, and it was kind of worth it. I thought I had until the April 1st to move out, and it was actually the March 15th. And sheriff showed up and like strong-armed me out of the apartment. I was able to find something quick, and the company I was working for was moving to a new city, so I moved to the new city. I really was having agoraphobia issues because I did need to show up to the office, and there were like several days in the first few weeks that I'm missing work, coupled with a poor internet connection, and I lost that job. So moved into this new place, and the landlord, who claims he was a landlord for a long time but has no idea what the laws are, and he started terrorizing and harassing me. At no point was I evicted, at no point was I asked to leave. Essentially, when I was given the tour of the place, there were 3 rooms. I chose the largest room because I have lots of stuff. He was using that room as a bedroom. He moved in with his girlfriend, and he had said at the time, like, I should have moved in with her a long time ago, but I wasn't sure about her. It wasn't going well with the girlfriend. He wanted his room back. There's actually like a legal process for that. It's called an N-12 form, I think. So he would serve me with that, saying, I want to live in the place where you're living and I would need to move. Instead of doing that, he enacted some like illegal and not okay and controlling rules, and it was not good. But it just escalated and escalated, of him trying to terrorize me into leaving. And at one point I even said, I will leave, I just need my last month's rent back so that I can afford to go somewhere else. And he's like, well, move out and I'll give you your last month's rent back. So it's like, I couldn't, but it was getting bad. It was getting really bad, and I was afraid for my safety, and I did need to call the police several times. They were completely useless. There are ongoing legal proceedings, and I actually got a copy of his police record, and it is like longer than my arm. I'm talking like 50 convictions, and I mean, who knows how many charges were withdrawn or dropped or whatever, but yeah, 50 convictions, of everything from like drug possession, fraud, theft, several charges of assault, recent charges of assault. Like, this was a hardened criminal, and it's sad that in our current environment with housing, that, I mean, renters are so desperate, and landlords can ask for all sorts of background checks and all sorts of things that they're legally not even allowed to ask for. But I mean, if you say no, you lose your place, right? So, or you don't get the place. But there's nothing to protect tenants from having a landlord who is a hardened criminal, a hardened violent criminal. So I couldn't afford to go anywhere, and I asked a male friend, who I met a guy online, and we'd been on a few dates, and I asked if he would stay over, and I set up like a little cot on the floor for him, and I was not AR'd, but there was absolutely stuff that happened with the friend staying over that I did not consent to, and so in me wanting protection from someone who was making me feel unsafe, I ended up being violated and being made to feel more unsafe. But what could I do? Because I had nowhere to go, and I couldn't afford to go. And luckily, a friend of the channel and a friend of mine since high school, pardon me, I'm going to sneeze, Chuppington, he's been in live streams, yeah, I've known him since high school. He lent me some money, and he lent me like $600, and I was gone. I rented a U-Haul, and I rented a storage unit, and I just packed up my crap and I left. And I had nowhere to go, so I went camping. It was about $60 a night to camp, and it was like a camping facility in the city. It was like, just outside of the city. And I'm glad I did. And there were people who said, like, well, why would you sleep outside? Why wouldn't you go to a hotel room? Well, what kind of a hotel room am I going to get for $60 a night? I am terrified of bed bugs, like just terrified. There's not many things I'm afraid of, but bed bugs is one of them. And yeah, if I'm renting a room in a hotel that's $60 a night, there's not going to be security. There's going to be all sorts of crime going on, and certainly dealing with creepy crawly vermin. So yeah, I can deal with mosquitoes, I can deal with spiders, but I can't deal with bed bugs or roaches, so no thank you for those. Anyway, I went camping, and I mean, there were clean washroom facilities, there's security 24/7. I like nature, I like camping, I'm okay with that. But yeah, that couldn't last forever. It's $60 a night. So I was very fortunate and I didn't have Merlin with me at the time, because one of the things that the landlord tried to do was to harm Merlin. So Merlin went to my friend Shannon's, and Shannon has a little beagle named Dora, who's about the same size as Merlin, and they play so well together. Shannon's a teacher, she had the summer off, so yeah, Merlin was able to hang out there and fit in quite well. I tried calling shelters, because that was what a lot of people said, well, why don't you just stay at the homeless shelter? And I don't think that those people realize what is available for someone who is in that predicament, because there really aren't a lot of resources. And there were some people who had, never accessed, some friends of mine, close friends, who had never accessed the system, and who were saying, oh, just apply for housing, or just do this, or just do that. And I don't qualify. And they didn't understand that. Like, in trying to apply for welfare when I was, not working, well, it's based on the income that you earned the month before, and the month before I was working. So I didn't qualify until like the month after that. But you have to like be in the same city. They won't pay for you to move from one municipality to another. So it was like, I can't apply for welfare. I mean, I can apply, but they're not going to give me anything. In fact, I did apply and was rejected for a few months, and then had to move to another city, and then couldn't get any assistance there. All the shelters are full. We have a massive homelessness problem in Canada and in Ontario, and I mean, I guess everywhere in the Western world right now, because the housing prices are going up everywhere. So shelters are full. And I called like every shelter in 100-kilometer radius, and there was nothing. I was very, very fortunate to have amazing friends who took me in and sheltered me. However, I was only there for like a month to 6 weeks at each place, and it's really hard to get settled when you're in a different city every month. So I was with David and Joellen for a while, and I mean, everyone was just amazing. I am going to use first names because they're relatively common names, and so I don't think that this is a dox. However, friends, if you don't want me to say this, I'll go back in and edit and take out your name. But so I stayed with Pam, who I'd known for like 25 years, and her son, and they had this gorgeous backyard. I stayed with, and then after I was with Pam, I moved in with Jess and her partner Annie. Jess wasn't super comfortable having a dog there, so Merlin went to stay with my friend Jordan, and I've known Jordan since high school as well. Jordan and Chubbington know each other too. And so, yeah, I was at Jess's for a few months. Just like, I kept job searching and working my butt off to try to find work, and I would get job offers, and then they would be redacted or retracted or withdrawn before the job even started. There were 4 jobs that I applied for that I was hired for, that I signed the contract, that were withdrawn before the start date, and that was often not having a good internet connection, not having a stable address. I mean, it's hard to work from home when you're homeless. So that was just, I just couldn't get ahead, and no matter how hard I tried. So I did another uncrossing, and I did it as I combined it with alchemy. So I did a 7-day uncrossing, going through the metals of the alchemic process, and that was super effective. Like, things started to flip around immediately. So within a week of doing, like, I hadn't even finished yet, and an old flame called me up, and he's like, hey, you want to go to Tobermory this weekend? And now he has a girlfriend. It was a G-rated trip, but it was lovely. And so he slept on the couch, I slept in the bed. I felt really badly with that because, his back wasn't good. He's got some sleep issues and some health issues, but it was a lovely getaway, and I was just so relieved to be able to get away. And so thank you, Chris. It was a really good time. We just hung out and drank wine and talked about D&D. It was quite awesome. I actually completed the ritual in Tobermory, so I left the salt offering there, and just because you want to leave it somewhere where you're never going to go back. So I found an off-road and left it there. Chris and I were at dinner, and there was a phone call that came, and it was me being offered a job, work from home position. The salary was decent, and awesome. I had found a room to rent, so things were looking up. Now the room that I'd rented, it was the son who I was dealing with the rent, and it was a lady who was probably in her 60s or 70s, who had some trauma issues and couldn't be alone at night. She had anxiety when she was alone at night. However, she had some issues, and there were some issues that actually reminded me of my abusive ex and was kind of triggering. For instance, like wearing sandals in the house or wearing like flip-flops. Like, to me, flip-flops are beach shoes, but yeah, it was, I had, was going out and I was getting dressed and I was at the door, forgot my purse, went back into the bedroom, grabbed my purse and left, and she hit the roof that I wore shoes in the house. It was dry out. She started saying that I was bringing disease in the house, and it just turned after that. And so I'm working my, so at this point, yeah, got a job, got a place to live. She would start banging on the door saying, get out of my house, get out. And so I'm like, okay. So I go to the son and I'm like, well, if you give me my last month's deposit back, I will leave. And he's like, no, you leave and I'll give you your deposit back. And I'm like, not playing that game again, because that didn't work out the first time. So, yeah. I ended up just finding another room to rent. But the lady was afraid of Merlin. She was afraid of dogs. And then the next place I moved into, he had a dog allergy. So I went, a few months without my Merlin. Jordan, my friend from high school, became unable to take care of Merlin. He had some of his own issues, and Merlin wasn't a good fit there. So I'm scrambling, like, I need someone to take care of my dog. And luckily Pam, who I was staying with earlier, she knew a woman, Sarah, who fostered beagles. So Merlin went to stay with her. She has 2 sons, and she has 2 beagles right now. Merlin fit in so well. He was having such a great time. So I'm so grateful. So yeah, things ended up turning around, because this lady was banging on the door and I'm working a customer service job. That job didn't end up panning out. So I'm totally fine with that, because I am now where I am now. So yeah, before the uncrossing, couldn't get a place to live, couldn't find a job, homeless, unemployed, everything I do is working against me. Did the uncrossing. Now I have Merlin back. I am a live-in caregiver for a lovely couple. They don't need a lot of assistance, so they have some mobility issues, because they're getting up there in age. The husband was a lawyer. He's in his late 80s and just retired 4 years ago. His memory's better than mine. The wife of the couple, she has some early dementia issues, and so basically, like, I help with meal prep and a little bit of their morning routine, a little bit of cleaning, and they have a granny flat in their attic, so this is where I am. I've got my own large bathroom, my own little kitchenette. The wage is incredibly generous for PSW work. It's personal support worker. Americans call them RNAs or CNAs. I was a PSW for many years, and I left the field because I have a bad back and also the agoraphobia, trying to get to work for 7 a.m. But I don't have to leave because I live here. So, there's really no heavy lifting here, so my back is just fine. Last week, and they love dogs. They always had dogs growing up when their kids were young, and they can't have dogs right now because they have mobility issues and can't walk a dog every day. So they adore Merlin, like, just love him. And I try to make sure I give them their space because they don't want me to hover. But yeah, like, most of my work is meal prep. I don't have Merlin down there with the meal prep because he would steal their sandwiches. But yeah, it's going really well. I've heard through the grapevine that they are very pleased with me. I am going to, do regular check-ins, make sure everything's okay, so that it doesn't end up, hitting me broadside that I lost my job. But yeah, things are going well. I don't have to pay rent or utilities. Like I said, the wage is very generous, especially for the level of work that I do. I have Merlin. I am in downtown Toronto, and I know somebody had said something like, Caroline just doesn't want to live, wants to live in the big city. And that is the opposite of the truth. So I'm didn't want to move back to my old city that I grew up in because it's just too many memories, just too much stuff. I really wanted a fresh start. But I love my Toronto adventures, and I've, quite often over the years, driven into Toronto and gone for a weekend of, doing a psychic fair or going to an event or visiting friends, and but a weekend's usually all I can take, and then I want to go home. It's just a lot. Toronto's a lot. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of noise. And even though I'm in a quiet neighborhood, like it's still a lot. And I always think of like disaster movies when they have to flee the city, and then there's like the highways are all backed up and you can't get out of the city. Whereas the old city I was in London, like you can get out of the city in 20 minutes. Whereas in Toronto, to quote Annie, it takes an hour to get to Toronto from Toronto. And yeah, but yeah, I will stay here as long as this couple is able to live independently in their own home. They're wonderful people. I'm happy. They seem happy. Merlin's happy. So that's going well. Doing an uncrossing does open roads and allow things to go smoothly, but it is still possible for me to get in my own way, which I continue to do with my love life. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I'm going to use names because they're all common names. About a year ago, I met Stefan. Stefan lives in the US. I like Stefan. He's a nice guy. Sometimes his sense of humor can cross some boundaries in saying some stuff that, just kind of strikes me the wrong way. So, yeah, I've had to, like, really enforce some boundaries. But, yeah, he lives in the US. He's too far away. I've told him that. There's a gentleman who I went for brunch with, and we tend to have a lot in common with science fiction and Star Trek. I don't know if there's a lot of chemistry there. I like him, and I'm willing to get to know him better and see if there's more chemistry there. We just went for brunch a few weeks ago, and then there's Ron, But, in typical Caroline fashion, I pushed him away, and I'm like, yeah, you don't really seem that interested in me, see ya. And like, what the hell, Caroline? What the actual hell? Oh my god, because I pushed him away because I felt like he was going to dump me, and, I was abandoned as a kid, so I have massive abandonment issues, and, I wanted to leave him before he left me. And now I may have permanently screwed things up, and so yeah, my love life is still a mess. I have a video that's going to come up about my ring that I sold. Yeah, I'll give you an update on that because there's more to that story. I'm stable. I'm in a safe place. I've got my own little granny flat. Merlin's with me. I'm making a good wage. I'm with a lovely couple in a job that I can do. Plus, like, there's going to be ample opportunity for me to build my tarot business. So I taught Merlin a new trick of how to read tarot cards, and so Merlin was if you watched my video yesterday for December 24th, because I'm recording this on Christmas Day, Merlin read tarot. So I'm actually hoping to make one of those a day. The purpose of my YouTube channel, despite what another creator said, I'm not looking for my subscribers to support me. That's called being a professional YouTuber, and that particular YouTuber has a husband who works full-time so that she can go on YouTube all day. So no, I'm not looking for my subscribers or anyone else to support me. The purpose of my channel was to build my tarot business, so why don't I talk about tarot more? So yeah, I'm hoping to have a daily Merlin pick a card, and to do more about tarot because it's what I love. Life is good. Life is safe. I'm so looking forward to 2023 and putting 2022 to bed. I hope that all of you are well, and do take care and have a lovely holiday season. May you pray with a good fire. Bye, pumpkins.